Hello, Krav Maga Martial Arts Tribe, friends, family, students. Shad Steve coming to you here on this great day. There's an amazing summer camp going on. Last day, graduation today, right outside my door. But today I wanted to talk to you about the importance of structure and the importance of flexibility. I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to use Krav Maga, the self-defense piece of what we do, as the structure to understand. But what I'm really talking about is what most people call time management. I always argue that it's not really time management because we can't manage time. Time is time does what it wants. But what we can do is manage ourselves within the time. So I'm talking about that. I'm talking about productivity. I'm talking about, how do we make the best and highest use of our available time. And so I'm going to start with discussing the importance of structure. Structure in our self-defense means technique, right? Like on the way to becoming confident and competent black belt leaders at Krav Maga martial arts, students are learning techniques to defend themselves in all different situations, right? Chokes, hair grabs, wrist grabs, headlocks, bear hugs, rear naked choke, guillotine choke, stick knife gun defense, all the things. And there are techniques that the students must learn to become black belts, and they have to know how to do, that are the structure. In the same way, when we try to organize our time, there's structure. I use this kind of planner, right? Like where I have, this is just kind of a digital version of like a old Franklin Covey paper planner, where on the right side, I schedule out my meetings and what Dr. Stephen Covey used to call big rocks throughout the day. And then I put on the left side my three most important goals for the day and all the other things I'm going to try to get done. And I prioritize them A, B, C. All of that is a structure of time management. And of course there's many, right? You can use time blocking. You can use something like this. Some people use purely digital solutions, but you have a structure. This morning I was reminded about the importance of being flexible within the structure. Like today was a day where I had to cancel one of my morning meetings because I just had so much I had to get done this morning. And I'm still investing a little time in you by sharing this message today. Um, so, so there's the structure, because it's so important, because without the structure, without the technique, right, the students will not learn enough different things to be prepared. And without the structure on a planner or some kind of time management tool, we will wonder where our time went instead of telling it where to go. Having said that, the real point of the message, and by the way, I excuse the background noise. Like I said, there's people learning and laughing out there. But the second piece is that we are going to make sure that we are flexible. And in Krav Maga, we call it principle. I teach my students in self-defense situation that the first thing we go to is technique. But when the technique fails because something changes, or something presents a greater threat, or right, like something causes us to have to be flexible in our self-defense application, then we go away from the technique, and the next thing is principle. Because principles are things that, one, should be more principles are more permanent, right? Like they're true in almost every situation. And the second reason is that principles allow us to create the solution even when we're not sure what it is. So in other words, maybe the variation of the attack was such that the student hasn't learned the specific technique for that, but because of their understanding of the principle, they will still be able to defend themselves. And I'll give an actual example. So, for example, on a side headlock defense, the defense, a simultaneous counterattack to the groin, and the other hand is right behind it, reaching across the bridge of the nose into the outside eye. Student pulls their elbow to their hip, which breaks the posture of the opponent, of the enemy, of the attacker, and then the student is able to give more attack and disengage. All of a sudden, all the bad guy has to do, though, is turn his head slightly, and the thing begins to modify. It goes to the inside eye, goes to the ear, right? There's several principles that are still relevant, right? Like in Krav Maga, some of the principles that are almost always there is that we have to identify and remove the immediate threat. We have to give simultaneous and violent counterattack, right? We have to strike vital areas, right? And in this particular instance, the ultimate principle is leverage to the neck. That makes the original technique work. So there's variations that still apply the same principles. And it's the same thing in our time management. We have to be flexible and make sure that we are reacting, that if we're changing something in the structure, we're doing so because of principle. So in our life management and the management of ourselves within our time, if all of a sudden we have to cancel a meeting, it's got to be because there is something of sufficient importance that it's a better and higher use of our time. And like in this case where I'm not, by the way, really, really greatly um, uh, disservicing the other person as well, right? Like, because of course there's also the element of respecting the other person's time, but sometimes there is a best and highest use of our time that principle causes us to be flexible. And then the third thing that we teach in a self-defense situation is attitude. And, you know, and ultimately the attitude piece just means this is that in a self-defense situation, one must do whatever it takes to survive, to get home alive in a real self-defense situation, to get home safely. And that's kind of the same thing sometimes in life, uh, in business, in the things that are important as we are in relationship and in all the things that are important to us. It's important that we have the attitude that we'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. So this is kind of where the time and productivity management meets up with goal and vision, goal setting and vision casting, right? Like the attitude is do whatever it takes to accomplish the goal and vision that I've set in my life. And so, like in a self defense situation, you're going to do whatever it takes. All right. Well, I got to get back to work myself. So, I hope that this has been useful to you. Please make sure to comment wherever it is that you saw this. And if you thought it had enough value, I would love it if that you share it as well. Prepare to live, empower to lead. Make it a great